when God has called you to something, there is a peace that doesn't really make sense. There's a peace that stays with you. And I think it was a real blessing because we had a year-long real like discernment year where we had a series of interviews and we really were praying as to, and doors just kept opening.
Hello everyone and welcome to All Nations Podcast. This podcast is about inspiring, mobilizing and equipping for global mission. Tune in as we share insights, stories and practical steps on how you can make an impact for Christ around the world. Hello everyone, welcome to All Nations Podcast. And today's a beautiful day actually. It's not just beautiful outside, it's beautiful here in the studio as well, where we've got an awesome couple that I'm very excited to be talking with actually. It was funny because I met Richard very quickly, about 5 minutes, because Nemo, one of the guys who's a producer for the podcast, he said, man, you got to meet these guys, you got to hear their story, they've got to also, so let's get them to the podcast. So the 5 minutes we sat on the day together, I said, stop Richard, I don't want to hear anything else, just tell me when we get there at the podcast. So it's super exciting. I'm going to get to know you guys as we do this. It's going to be awesome. One thing I already know about them is that they're both, I call them the aviation couple. So Richard's a pilot. Going to be working with Math, and Christine, she was a flight attendant. But I know that's not how they met, but I'll let them tell the story. So guys, welcome. It's great to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us in. It's nice to be able to chat to you about things.
That's going to be great. It's going to be great. Yeah. I'm super excited that we can have this chat, and I'm sure our listeners will also enjoy and also learn so much from your story and see how they can be inspired of what God's doing in your lives. Now, we always love doing this because, when we get couples in, it's just lovely to hear the love story. And I always know that the women and the men have different love stories. So we would love to hear both. So if you guys can give us a little bit of how did it happen? What happened, Richard?
That's great. I know. I was wondering if you're going to ask us separately because it might be slightly different. But
maybe let's start.
Do you want to get first?
Okay. Yeah, sure. So I'll go. So I was living in London. Okay. I was flying. I was a flight attendant, and I was a part of a church in London, and I was a part of a small group, and there were a lot of single girls in our group. And as a group, we decided that we would join an online dating site.
Oh, wow.
And we said that we were all going to give it a go, and that...
Is it a Christian dating site?
Yeah, so it was a Christian dating site, and there's like a few now, but this was a few years ago. And we said that we had to go on dates. Like if we were actually going to do it, we needed to go on dates, right? That was the whole thing, right? So we started doing this thing, and I went on a date, and it wasn't that great. The guy was, I love vegetarians, that they're amazing people. But this guy was a vegetarian, and I just couldn't do it.
You're originally from the US, right?
I'm originally from the US. Yeah.
You know how much you guys love your meat.
Like if we would go out for a meal, the starter always had to be like cheese or something, And I was like, no, I want something more. This isn't going to work. So I was about to close down my account because I wasn't going on many dates. And so I was busy. Anyway, I saw that Richard was on there, and that he had, and the way that you talk to people on this specific dating site is you wave.
Okay.
So I saw that Richard had waved at me, and I was like, well, he's like into aviation as well. So I said, if things go wrong, at least we can talk about planes. At least if things go wrong, we can talk. Yeah. So that's where I'll leave it.
Okay then.
Yeah.
I like it. I like that you guys are bringing it together.
Yeah.
It's so, not like you have because me and my wife, I have one story and she has a completely different story.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's good that you guys are bringing it together.
Yeah. So obviously, kind of a self-explanatory, but I was obviously on the website. I'd been on there a bit longer than Christine. Been on quite a few dates and nice enough people, but I hadn't hit it off with anybody. And about the November time, I saw that I saw Christine's picture on the website. So I was like, oh, she looks really nice. Why not? So sent her a wave, and heard nothing back. So anyway, heard nothing back. Okay, fine, fair enough. And so it got to about the end of December, early January, and I've been on I think a date since then, and I was like, right, similar thing. I'm done. Yeah, I'm done for a while. Going to close my account down. Actually went onto the website to close my account down, and there in the little suggested area was Christine. And generally, I've got a rule where I was like, if I've tried to contact someone and they've not replied, I won't try a second time. So I'm like, it's fine. But for whatever reason, I was like, I'm never going to meet her. I might as well just try once more. So anyway, sent a wave off, logged off, went off to church in the morning, didn't really think much about it. And then I got home from church, and all of a sudden I had like a wave back to me, and I had 5 preset messages.
And all from Christine.
All for Christine, saying...
So she was eager to, come on, Rachel, I got to meet this guy.
I didn't know if it was going through, so I kept sending it.
Yeah, exactly. So it turns out Christine didn't actually realise that she had sent me 5. So anyway, we managed to connect and went on a date, and I guess, the rest is history.
We kind of knew from the beginning.
Yeah.
So that was really
That's
nice.
Awesome.
It was really good.
That's funny though.
Yeah.
Funny 5 waves, and you must be pretty desperate.
Yeah. I was like, literally not replying to me to like something really wants to talk.
And tell me a little bit more about family life. So you guys been married since when? How many years already? You have kids? No kids? How is that?
Yeah. So we got married in 2018.
Yeah.
And we've got Eloise, who's 4. And we've got Rupert, who's 2, and so they've both actually turned. Rupert's turned 2 while he's been here.
Yeah.
Which was
Eloise.
Eloise. Yeah. Eloise turned 2. Sorry, Rupert turned 2 just before we got here, and Eloise turned 4 when we got here.
Yeah.
And so we had a big party for her here, and she actually really, she really loved it and loved all the community coming around her. It was actually, it was a really special event.
That's lovely. And how do you guys feel? Like with the community life, because you just mentioned community life, because we're actually at All Nations right now, because the studio's at All Nations, and you guys are studying here at the moment, right? So what brought you guys to study here? And you mentioned a bit about community life. So how did it go, even for the kids as well? So how is it for the kids? Just hear a bit on that.
Yeah. So we're going to be working with MAF, and so this was part of their training for us, is to send us here, and so we've been a part of the course here with them. And I think coming into it, we've done living in community separate, but we've never done it as a family before, and so I think with that it did bring up some like, oh, what's it going to be like, as a family living with so many other people, and we've been so surprised that actually when we go back to our house, it's going to feel so quiet. Like, we've grown to really love living with this community. Yeah, we really have.
It's actually really nice. Like in the mornings, we're in so there's the almost the big house here, and we're on the very top floor, and our corridor is basically full of families, and so it's really interesting. Like in the morning, all the kids kind of they just suddenly appear, and you'll usually end up with like our kids will be in our room, and then there'll be like 3 other kids watching you brush your teeth, and then they'll disappear off again, and they'll be in someone else's room. And it's actually it's really lovely. It's nice that you get to walk through this with other people, and other people who are actually going through the same stuff as we are.
And actually, how was that for you guys? Because like you were living in the UK, so you had your home, right? And then suddenly you're living in the corridor with a bunch of people that you don't know, with a bunch of other kids that you don't know. How is that? Especially for the women, I think it's sometimes it's a bit more challenging. I don't know, but I'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, I think for us, I think it really when you're in community, I think the main thing is that you almost get out of it what you put in. And so I think if you're engaged in it, and if other people are engaged in it, then actually that's what makes a difference. And the one thing we found here is that everybody's engaged in it. Everybody wants to know your story. Everybody wants to help you out. And actually, it works because people care, and people care about you as well. And so it's I think it's never easy. And changing all that stuff isn't easy, but actually it's made easier by by feeling that we've been supported through this process and feeling that that everybody else is actually going through the same stuff. And so,
and I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, yes, they're total strangers. Yes, we've never met them, but you immediately have this connection.
Yeah, that's true.
Because of what we're going to do, right? Like there's an immediate connection, and it's so interesting that you don't even know these people, but all of a sudden there's this connection, and you're like, yeah, we get each other. And we can do this, you know, like we, really this is different. Yeah, we haven't done this before, but it's, it's just a really encouraging environment. Yeah,
because I remember when we first came to study here, and we came for 3 years, so we decided we would come for 3 years. And then I remember my wife coming here, and it was the first time we actually lived in community. The first year, it was like, what the heck are we doing in this place? Especially because we were sort of taking it in steps. We were not just, because you guys like came for 10 weeks and you're heading out, right? You're ready to go. We came to sort of feel if this was really God sort of calling us out into that and stepping out into mission. So our process was a bit different, and I remember my wife especially struggling a lot with because the community here is very tight, right? Everyone's everywhere. Basically, and then I remember that when we were finishing, we decided to go to the Logos Hope ship, and I think the Lord was really preparing us because they knew we were living with 350 people on a tight ship, and that's they would say, there was a guy here on AC saying that the Logos Hope ship is all nations on steroids when it comes to community. It's just crazy. Anyway, it's not about me; it's about you guys. I want to hear more about you guys. So then you guys ended up, Richard mentioned to me, you sold your home. Yeah, so I mean, I guess if we like backtrack a little bit into like the process of it, it was that we, so I've been a pilot for the last 16 years. Okay. I've been doing various flying, so did a bit of instructing, worked out in Indonesia for 3 years working for a company out there. Worked a little bit for a job down flying to Al Sicily, and in the last 9 years I've been working for this is a civilian company that has a contract with the military. And we were we're fairly well established. We obviously had a good job. Promotion was taking a little bit longer than I thought, but that was in the process of happening, hopefully in the next couple of years. Getting more financially secure. We bought a house about 3 years ago. Life was good. And I think it was about January last year.
2023.
2023. How God starts to step into your world and things, and just through different talks and different things, just felt that the kind of God was saying to us that He'd set on us this heart for people, and for ultimately for MEF as well. We'd kind of it'd been something we'd talked about, but not really seriously, but thought that something that we'd almost decided that it was something that we'd do in the future. That when I was coming towards retirement, like towards the end, 60s, like kids are grown up, no commitments. Actually, that'd be perfect time for us. That's when we're going to do it. But actually, we just felt that God was saying that that He's given us these desires, but we actually need to give the timing back to Him. And as is with God, there's a few things that kind of speaking out, and initially it was to me, and I was kind of thinking, it's kind of quite a big move, No, wait a minute, just tell me a little bit. So when you say this voice speaking, how did you actually feel or hear from God? How was it? Because I think people love hearing that, and God's speaking so many ways. Completely. And I think this is it. I think He's a relational God, and He actually knows the best way to get to us. And so actually with me, it's through it was through different. It was just through different events, and so there was a few talks that had been on about timing, and also about kind of purpose as well. And so while I was enjoying my job, and it was interesting and other things, that actually I didn't necessarily think I felt there was a purpose in it. I didn't feel that I was necessarily being
using all of your gifting.
Yeah, using all my gifting.
It felt like there was more stuff in you that could be used.
Yes,
I think.
I think that's and kind of so. And for me again, is there'll be something small that'll trigger off, and then the thought will go into my head, which on hindsight you suddenly realise that's a God thing, and you just can't shake it. It keeps coming back. You keep thinking, it's something that I won't. Give it a couple of weeks and I'll have forgot about it, but actually it's something that just keeps on being reaffirmed by different stuff. Yeah.
And did you sort of so how long do you think it took for you to realise this is actually God really, and I'm going to go for it? Because I remember I remember reading a book from George Verver. I forgot which one it was, the late George Verver, and he was basically talking about the Lord is speaking almost. He speaks every day to us, really.
Yeah.
We're the ones that are not listening.
Yeah.
And the Lord is calling us every day, and He's calling different people to fulfill different purposes. But it comes to a point when we don't, when He calls us and we have that first encounter, we get fired up and we go, okay, this is going to happen. The Lord has called me, I'm going to make it happen. And then a couple of weeks later, it dies off. And then you need that second encounter, and then it fires you up again. I'm going to go, this is going to happen. The Lord's called me to do this. And then it dies again. And then George he says about, it comes to a point where you become numb. The Lord has sort of called you so many times there, and you become numb because you say to yourself, oh, no, I'm not going to do it anyway, so why am I going to bother listening? So I'm wondering, how long did it take for you to actually...
So, do you want me to...
You can if you want,
You answer that bit, actually.
Yeah, okay, so I think God's probably been calling us for a while, and we probably haven't realised, like as you're saying, and I think it took, like we said, it was all these different factors leading together, and for me it was that I know there was about this 2-week period where I really felt God starting to lay it on my heart, and I kind of was like, but I was like, I need to chat with Christine. So because so this stuff's been going on. It's inside my head. I'm thinking, actually this is something that I think God's calling us into. And to be honest, it was probably a little bit of a get out clause, because I was like, I'll say to Christine, how about joining math and moving to the other side of the world? And
she'll definitely say no.
Yeah, she'll be like, no, that's not happening. And then I'll be like, well, I did my part. Come on. But yeah. So anyway, I brought it to Christine, and straight away she was like, actually this is something independently that's been laid on your heart.
Wow, and that's the beauty of it, right? When you see that happening,
it really is. And actually the confirmation since then, for instance, we went back to Christine's, obviously originally from the States, and we went back to visit her family, and she's got had a little box of stuff that she had kept with them, just little mementos and things, and completely unbeknownst to us, but about 2 months later on, after we'd had this discussion and we'd started to take the steps, she goes back to the house, starts looking through the stuff, and in this little small box was a flyer from MEF.
Oh, there you go.
She didn't even realise she'd put
that's really
that God had planted in her heart, years beforehand.
That is,
and I think that's when you realise that actually God is putting these seeds in, and actually. He ultimately knows when you're going to reply to it, and he knows, and it will be, and it's kind of his timing on it.
That's amazing.
And I think, it's amazing once you step into that he's suddenly like, yeah, guys, look, I've been waiting for you. Here it is.
And I think that when God has called you to something, there is a peace that doesn't really make sense. There's a peace that stays with you. And I think it was a real blessing because we had a year-long real discernment year where we had a series of interviews, and we really were praying as to, and doors just kept opening. And Richard and I just said from the beginning that we will keep walking as long as the doors open.
Yeah.
And I really felt so strongly. I said, we're going to get all the way through, and then it will be up to us.
That's awesome.
At the end of it, it will be our decision as to if we take it up and actually do it, because everything was opening, and then it was the choice was up to us as to if we walked through.
Because I think the thing to point out is that even while we felt we were called in the first place, it wasn't that we just suddenly were like, right, it was actually we were realistic, and we're suddenly like, wait a minute. We've got a house, there's all
security,
there's all these different obstacles in the way. And so actually we were like, well, let's just start a conversation with MEF and let's just see if we get answers and the doors open. And actually that's when it started happening. And I think God understands that as well. He just wants you to make the first step, and actually he takes the rest of the way. Because if we had had to jump straight in, like into the whole thing, then I think it
gets too scary.
Yeah, and he knows that, and he takes you, and we felt him like walking with us step by step, and it's almost been like revealed to us over that process. But then because of that, we've got a real like knowing that we're in the right place for this season.
Yeah, like a deep peace. I think that although there's so much to do, and really massive things.
Yeah. So then, basically, you guys felt this calling strongly. You both felt it, and it's just an amazing story.
Yeah.
And then, how did you then decide? Okay, we'll apply to math, and we need to do some studies on this. We need to get a bit more equipped. Did you feel you need to be equipped, or did you feel no? Actually, we could have gone as we are right now, because you already had some sort of intercultural experience. Because you mentioned Indonesia that you worked there.
Yeah. So I guess so for me personally, I did YWAM Youth and Mission when I was younger, and I lived in Indonesia for 3 years, and I've spent other time abroad as well. And to be honest, I wish I'd had en route before all that. And so and even now there's still stuff that I'm like yes. And so completely even having done that, and even like YWAM, amazing, but it fits in a different sphere. And so for me, it was actually really useful as well, because there's lived out in Indonesia, and actually I realized definitely towards the end I had culture shock, and
there wasn't the training on how to kind of deal with that. You kind of were left on your own to sort out how you were gonna
completely
manage
and so
that.
It's been really nice to unpack that, and also just to get it better. Again, I could, from living in different cultures, I could see that things were different, but it's sometimes hard to put your finger exactly what they are. And this just starts to give a better framework for actually some of those things. And so, we found it enormously helpful.
It's a really good question, because it's like, do we think we needed it beforehand?
Yes.
That's the question. And I'm trying to think if I felt like I was prepared or not. And I think maybe also coming here, you realize you're like, oh, that's really good. That's really good. And I hadn't thought about it that way before. But I think the real blessing for Richard and I is that for us, I feel like it's been really affirming in ways that we have thought about mission, especially like integral mission. The way that we have thought about that as a couple, I'm not sure everyone else around us has seen that. So to be in an environment where it's like you've got people lecturing on it and they're really passionate about it, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, finally, like this is it. This is what it's about. And I think that has been, really great. So I don't know if we knew we needed it before, but after we've been here, we're like now we're just like everyone needs to do it, whether or not you are going into mission,
Global Mission UK or
whatever, even like just church leaders. That kind of thing. It's so important. Like, this is just important for everyone.
Especially today. Like, if you look at globalization today, in the UK, it's crazy. Like, you got cultures. There's some. I mean, you got literally subgroups divided around London, even the whole UK. And I totally agree with that. I think that's totally right. And our churches have become so multicultural. How do you deal with that?
And I think the thing we really appreciate about this whole thing is that Christianity and culture are these two separate things, and I love that, and I love the fact that you can. So that actually, Christianity is global, but actually, like, culture is per region, and so actually the church can look different in different places that can reflect the culture, and I think that's so important, especially if whether you're in maybe a minority area in the UK or whether you go out into other countries. We don't need to be taking the whole thing. It's actually, this is Christianity, and actually it's for other people to use their culture into that. And I think that's an important distinction.
I'll even go a bit back there. I'd say this is Jesus. This is who you meet with. Because normally when we use a lot of let's say Christianity, it can come, depending on the culture, it can come a bit wrongly to them. If they want to change our culture, they want to change the way we are. It's not about the religion; it's about the person of Jesus, right?
Completely, yes,
That's beautiful. guys, it's just so awesome to be hearing you guys. It's just and the whole story in packing. So the course you did at All Nations was en route.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about that course. How did it go? How long is it? And how did it impact your life? Maybe we'll do that.
Yeah.
How long was the course, and how did it impact your life?
Yeah, so it was a 10-week course.
Okay.
It's an intense course. It's, for 10 weeks, other levels get like a reading week and we just plow through. And the material is so carefully picked. There's so much thought that's gone behind what they think will be helpful to you. And what I've said all along is that it's been so practical.
Yes.
Like all the stuff they've given us has been really practical
It's
stuff.
not just like head knowledge.
No.
Like you can actually put in practice.
Yeah.
Really practical, yeah.
And I think what's really unique to All Nations is that the lecturers have so much experience. It's not like you're going to a class and you're like, okay, we're going to learn about this and it's all from a book.
Yeah.
But they've never done it.
That's
And it's so different when you're learning from someone who has actually done it. It changes everything.
It does.
Because the way that they talk about the material is on a different level.
I think it's the passion that
Yeah.
she mentioned the passion
Yeah.
about it. But it's the same thing. You go to buy a car. If you go to a guy salesman and he's just like, oh, this is the car.
Yeah.
But you go to, man, this car has this. It's the same thing, when you're sitting in the classroom and you're listening from someone who actually has experience. They sell it to you as well. At the same time, they're actually ministering to your life. Well, it's amazing.
Yeah, completely.
And what about you, Richard? How did it?
Yeah, no, I think very similar. I think, like Christine said, that with the lecture as well, even not even just their experience, but the knowledge. Had some lessons with Sam Cootie, and he just seems to know. Like,
it blows you away, right?
Yeah. So first of all,
which Bible is this guy reading? Because I don't know which Bible this guy's reading. Because I can't see that.
Yeah, but even we're like, oh, so he seems to know like that chapter off by heart, and then we're like, he seems to know that book off. Oh, seems to know that book as well. Like,
he knows all of it.
Yeah, he just is amazing. But he's so humble with that as well.
Yeah.
And like even when we were talking about how can we become better at like almost memorizing scripture, and he was like, there's no pressure.
Yeah.
He's like he was really very practical about that. And just it's about Jesus. It's about getting to know him more.
It's about delighting in the Word of God and just really spending time in it. And
that's it. And so and that, I mean, that's just one person, but all of the lecturers just there. Obviously we've got the qualifications that a lot of them got. They're not just from experience. Actually,
all
very
the PhDs.
Yes, that's it. They're so qualified as well. And even for our 10-week course, these are the people that are there for us as well. And so it's amazing. And to be honest, you a lot of the time we've left kind of things being like we want to know more, and that's it. You feel like you're just dipping your toe into it. But it's nice as well because it actually is a good starting place to teach you about all these things that you can actually go on and have further reading. And even if you don't have time here, obviously the library here is amazing. So if you want a book, if you want a Christian book,
it's actually I think it's actually the biggest mission library in Europe.
Wow,
Okay. It's not the biggest; it's one of the biggest. Focused on mission.
And I can imagine that. And so we've been, we've been getting various books out and trying to read them.
We've definitely been juggling with our kids, but we've, been in and out of books.
And you've been doing all of this in 10 weeks with 2 kids.
With 2 kids.
Superstars.
Under 5. Just want to put it out there.
Under 5.
The big characters as well. But again, it's nice because, Eloise, she's our 4-year-old and we've decided she's probably part Dutch because the Dutch here are known for being a bit more direct, and but Eloise is more direct than everyone else. And they love her. They love her, and it's great. And so she just fits in so well, and she's been going around and keeping everyone in order, and it's just been so nice to see that interaction.
Yeah, so even in that point, just like just the family, the community within families as well, because you have the singletons, but you also have the families and how that shapes and how that plays, the role that plays into building community. It's not just a bunch of young single people, but you've got the young single people, you've got the families, you've got some couples, and that just brings a whole like flavour and sort of it's just awesome.
Yeah,
it does, and actually everyone mixes as well. So that's the nice thing about it, isn't it? That you've got all these different groups, and people can find someone to identify within those groups. But actually, there's a big crossover as well. And so, often in the evening, we'll have finished dinner, and the kids will have run off and be playing with somebody, and there'll be usually somebody that's one of the singles or one of the couples, something like that. They'll be off playing with them, and they'll be doing that for half an hour. And so
it's learning that goes beyond the classroom, really.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think
definitely
that.
is.
Yeah, definitely.
So now you finish you're finishing. This is your last week, right at All Nations.
Yeah.
And what's the plan now? So when are you guys heading off? Are you heading off? Where are you heading off? If you're able to say it, it'd be great to hear that.
Yeah. So we've got a fairly busy time ahead of us. So. We've got a week off for hanging out with Christine's family, which would be lovely, and then we've got a week orientation course for MAF, because we literally joined MEF about a week before we started here. Oh, wow. So it was all so there's got a lot of admin that's been going on in the background, and so we've got that, and then we've got a couple of weeks off to sort the house out. And then we're doing a 3-day security course over near Gatwick, and then we're actually going to pop out. So eventually we're going to go to Papua New Guinea, but we're actually going to go for a visit there in
Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, Papua New Guinea.
Yes.
The beginning of August is when we're going to have a visit.
Where is Papua New Guinea?
Yeah, that's true. It is. Yeah, it's just
we
above
will show you.
Just above Australia. So
it's a beautiful part of the world, though.
Yeah,
I've never been, but I used to work with a guy on the ship actually in Lagos Hope. He was Papua New Guinea. The guy was lovely. He showed me some pictures of.
Was he from there?
He was from there.
Amazing.
Lovely guy, big heart for the Lord. So
That's
he goes from village to village, like the real. I say you're the real missionary.
Yeah.
You go from village to. He walks days to another village to go and check.
Yeah.
But
this is the part of the reason why MEF are out there, because actually it literally does take days. So Papua New Guinea is like about 77% of it is rainforest.
Okay.
And so these like the isolated communities. There's three main roads in the whole of Papua New Guinea. Wow. And so actually, if you want to get anywhere, it takes a long time. So for instance, one of the villages we hear about recently, it takes them a week trekking to get to the nearest medical centre. Or in there's other places, it's literally 2 days to get to the nearest road, let alone anything else. And so actually, MEF are going to be there or are there already. They were set up in the 1950s there to actually.
Yeah, there's a long history.
Yeah, to be flying in humanitarian stuff, to be flying in Bibles, to be flying people like your friend around, so they can actually get into these places.
That is awesome.
To be able to help people and work alongside the community. Ideally we're going to be doing that at the end of the year. I've got a bit of training in Australia over the summer for 4 weeks, but the plan is for there at the end of the year. But we'll see what happens. We have to sell our house. We have to sell all our stuff.
But I mean, I'm sure that God's been in control.
God's been amazing.
You'll be feeling anything. It's like you say. The only thing you have to do is take the next step.
That's it.
And just taking that next step, even though you can't see it. What's in front of you, but He's there, and you just step again.
Yeah,
completely.
And that's really, really that's awesome. I mean, and what I love about this as well is that you guys just go in and using your careers. You're going to continue to be a pilot, but you're going to be using it towards kingdom. Focus.
And I think that's interesting, because I really think I've always said this. It's like we're all given a deck of cards, stuff that's been given to us not because we've acquired it, sort of stuff that's innate in us, and that's the stuff that God wants to use. It's that stuff that's just you. That's how you were wired. It's not like. And so I just think for us, and it's not like this for everyone. And I think that's really important, that it looks different for everyone. Yes. And it's not the same way. And this is just something that Richard and I, it's just in us. Yeah. This is just in us, and it's been in us, and we're, choosing to just walk in that direction. So.
And I think you said something very, very key there, because a lot of people, they get worried about, okay, I need to leave my job then for me to be able to serve God.
Yeah.
But it's actually not about that. It's actually really about just taking that step, saying, Lord, here I am, and maybe the Lord will use you in finance. Maybe the Lord's going to use you as a football player. Maybe the Lord's going to use you as whatever He wants to use as airplane pilot. And it's just different for everyone. But I think that it's really us understanding that and sort of getting that understanding that we need to just take that step. I love that what you said about the step. It's just one step at a time, and just trusting that the Lord is there.
Completely. I think it's that, like we were talking about earlier, it's that timing thing as well. That actually, it could have been actually that we give the time to God and He gives it back to us. It's not yet. That because actually you see that all through the Bible. Yes, exactly. It's often it's not yet. So it might be the opposite way, where you feel you're really determined to do something, but He might be saying not yet. And actually, I think it's so cool that God has got His timing. Yes. And actually,
Kairos.
it's and it's just us being willing to take that next step with Him, whatever that is. Yeah. And it happens to look like us for going to Papua New Guinea, but that's it could have easily been something else. And so it's just being open to that, I think, is the main thing.
That's awesome. Guys, I just want to, I could stay here talking with you guys for ages. It's just so awesome to hear your story. But I think we need to sort of make it close.
That's good.
But it's been really, really lovely just to chat with you guys. Definitely will be praying for you guys as you go off. I'm sure you're going to make a huge impact for the Lord. If you were to give one, it's not even piece of advice, or one something that could inspire our listeners today. One thing, it can be a sentence or something that defines what you've been living and where you feel God's calling you and how it's been doing. And specifically focus on global mission, what would you say to our listeners today?
Yeah, mine's pretty simple. I think I would say it's about relationship.
That's beautiful. I like that.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's to come as you are, and so actually, whatever state you're in now, God can use you, and to come as you are, because actually, if we wait to be in the place that we think we should be in, we'll never get there. And so I think that's the main thing for me, is that like we were saying earlier, just come as you are and just be ready to take the next step.
So basically, it's come as you are and build relationships on the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's
You
it.
guys got a great connection. Guys, again, really appreciate your time and you coming to spend some time with us. And may the Lord bless you again.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Luca.